We start off with this guy. That's not how grates work. You can't unscrew one side and have the other side pre-unscrewed for you. He dies. We move on to Mike Schmidt. Or is it Afton? Look, Steve's not even really sure either. He starts to say it, but then ends up looking more like even the director's not sure, as they cast him as just Mike. Even Mike looks confused while thinking about it. Okay, fine. At about 1.5 hours, William does actually call him Michael Schmidt, but we'll cover that later. Then there's his little sister, and the only thing she loves more than drawing creepy things is... Who has ever heard of a cassette that lasts more than 45 minutes per side? No wonder you're not sleeping. You're getting woken up every 45 minutes by this.
All is well. All is well.
Turn tape over.
Mike dreams of his mom getting a towel to avoid the dirt getting too moist, I guess, and Mike's brother Garrett is taken. Yes, it's recurring. No, I don't care. Mike's aunt tries to take custody of Abby while her lawyer regrets all of his life choices.
Why, Mike, you've done so much more with mine. I want you that document. This bitch is great. Just pooped in my pants and I don't even... That's it. I'm out of here. Now, where did I put that cyanide?
You're her whole world right now.
Mike decides to take the security job, which brings us to night 1. He reads the directions to find the address, which I guess helps him navigate a key lock in order to get in. He's told to keep people out, but when he flips the breaker, this happens.
Come on in.
Do you know what keep people out means? I guess not. He describes the first night as interesting. Right, really interesting. Although if I had a recurring dream of losing someone or this, I would definitely lose less sleep over the former. Ed, and Eddie plan to get Mike fired, and her lawyer's regret turns to...
Why didn't I just get myself when I hit the chain? This bitch is crazy. I'm just becoming cartoon characters.
Abby flexes, her insolence, not her abs. Night 2. Mike dreams of getting penetrated by a child. He meets Officer Thirsty, who is also a certified EMT, but too dumb to suggest stitches for this clearly gaping wound. Nah, just wrap it up. You'll be fine. Generally, it's easier to get behind the main cast when they're not dumber than a clump of sand stuffed into people clothes. If this pose right here doesn't ring any alarm bells for you, then maybe your job should be done with something a little smarter, like a pair of pears, or 2 drunken scarecrows. She shows him the robots on stage, asks him to dance, and Mike learns more about the missing kids, ending with some good old-fashioned double standard unwanted touching. Maybe just one more creepy look for the road. Give it up, Delphine LaLaurie. He's not interested. Eddie calls up Ed to say it's on. One by one, they all die. That last one is by far my favorite. Officer Hot and Cold shows up, blames the break-in of Freddy's on Mike not locking the door, and not the much more obvious fact that the lock on the door was broken. You saw him lock it up right in front of you. When you say EMT, you actually meant DMT, didn't you? He explains the break-in with a long-winded story about when Garrett was taken, which apparently lasted all day, because before you know it, it's night 3. It begins with some reckless child endangerment, ends with Mike pooping his pants. It's okay, they just want to play. Wink, wink. Mike sees some drawings and logically concludes that it's Ghost controlling the robots. It's a movie, and at this point, I've completely checked out, so whatever. Night 4. Officer Mary Kay Letourneau shows up, and there's a montage of building a fort. Officer Lorena Bobbitt shrivels 1,000 members by warning Mike by literally snapping wood. She says she can't wrap her head around why he brought Abby to Freddy's. I can't wrap my head around how a police officer hasn't arrested Mike and brought Abby to protective services. Durr. Mike goes off on another story about Garrett. Okay, we get it. You'd rather reminisce than touch the stripper in a cop costume with a 10-foot pole. It finally occurs to Officer that a dilapidated building full of homicidal machines might be kind of dangerous for a child. When Abby gets sizzled on stage and winds up unconscious on the floor. It's okay, when he's dead, you'll be all mine. Don't believe me? In the very next scene, she threatens to shoot Mike. Between that and Abby's look of something between confusion and disillusionment, I think that says it all. Anti-Bitchface stops by and somehow becomes even more punchable. Mike has another dream where he gives away his own sister in exchange for reuniting with Garrett whenever he sleeps. He gets sliced up and wakes up portraying how YouTube is raping its viewers with ads. He lubes up and pulls out just in time, which leads us to Night 5. Auntie, more punchable by the second, finally dies. Mike winds up in the care of Officer PGAD, who finally deems his injuries worthy of stitches. She explains that the children's bodies are inside the animatronics. Even back before blood and DNA analysis, did everyone go nose blind? I'm pretty sure they had scent dogs back then. Let's do some quick math. A rotting corpse plus 1 robot equals no smell. Are you telling me that not only could these 5 people not figure it out, but neither could the director or the producers or... Oh... Another big reveal, the man behind it all is William Afton, and he is her father. I would just like to point out that all this exposition is going on while the person they're trying to save somehow managed to take a ride with Black Ned Flanders, who thinks nothing is wrong about this, and apparently accepts Freddy's tokens as payment, and is currently about to be permanently stuffed into an iron womb. This is where the term latchkey child comes from. Also, needs stitches, has not had one. Mike and Officer BDSM have some chalky pokey time. She lends him her cop car. Her cop car. Does this movie take place in Mayberry, Deputy Fife? Well, you did just let him illegally raid the weapon locker, so hey, why not? Just throwing that idea out there from earlier. Just saying. Couldn't do a whole lot worse. Look, here's an actual dummy who's smarter. Look, this one's a kitty. Carry the kitty. Mike heads off to Freddy's without even checking to see if Abby's at home. Nope, just straight to Freddy's. Classic horror movie logic. He smashes open another vent with no screws fastening it somehow, attracting no attention to himself doing that. But moving from here to there causes this. He shocks the robots on stage, but instead of going after Abby, he stays to admire his work. Apparently her scream is required to motivate him. Mike runs to Abby and shocks. Abby tells Mike to sack up and they should not be stupid white people and leave. Mike ignores her advice and gets snacked on by a cupcake robot. Good to know that robots are just as stupid as humans. Bite his leg off. Don't release. He's just going to... Abby gets chased by Foxy. She narrowly escapes into the ball pit. Enter the Yellow Rabbit. Mike tries to shock William, but his lack of a soul makes him shockproof. William kicks Mike in the face and pulls out a knife to kill Mike. Officer Wussy shows up, pops, locks, and shocks the fox, and pulls Abby out of the ball pit. Officer Electrocomplex tries to stop William, and he takes off his mask to reveal, out there we didn't all know it by now, the doofy career counselor is William Afton. Earning her a well-deserved strangling, Officer Needs a Daddy finally gets the penetration from Daddy she always wanted. Abby draws what really happened. I don't want to waste a lot of time focusing on this, but how did it take pinning a drawing on a corkboard for the children to remember that William is the guy that murdered them? Wrapped that turd up in a nice little bow, didn't they? William ends up at the bottom of a furry pile. Mike and Abby carry Officer Stuck Like a Pig out of the building. Mike visits her in the hospital, creepy blondie in the doorway, and William experimenting with erotic electrostimulation.
Pleasure.
Oh, good show, boy. I will give this movie props for bravely executing the darkest possibility of what's more likely small enough to fit inside this robot. Nobody wants to say it, but now you're all thinking it. You're welcome.
I've been an idiot about so many things.
Oink oink.